Okay, so welcome everybody. Today's a little bit of a small group, but that's good. It gets us still excited about what's going on. And I'm Belinda Allen. I'm going to guide you through some more because this is actually a part two. Last month was so big, we ended up just stretching it out. Some artificial intelligence inside of Power BI while we're looking at the GP data. Now we spent last month's session, and it is recorded. You can go back and listen to it. We spent a lot of time in that on Q&A, and we covered some other areas as well. So we have more to talk about today. And she should be joining us hopefully at the end of the session. But I do want to thank Marlena and her team, Haley, who's on with us today, and everyone at DexPro for giving me a platform in which to share this information with you. Whoops, went too fast. A couple of things I want to point out. Next month, we pushed this off a month since I'm gonna since I am extending the artificial intelligence. Next month, we're going to be talking about a little bit of data modeling for the GP General Ledger. So we're going to talk about a little bit of information, including how you might aggregate some things so that you could do some nice visuals or operational visuals from your general ledger trial balance without revealing any payroll information. And then in April, we don't have the date yet, but we will soon. We're going to talk about using using dates inside of Power BI from your GP. We'll talk about if you're on a calendar year. We'll talk about if you're on a year that is not a calendar year, but your periods are months. And we'll talk about what to do if you're on a fiscal year. So we'll be talking about where maybe you have like a 4-4-5 period or a 13-4-week period. So we'll be talking about all of that, including some DAX functionality. Now, as I mentioned last month, we covered the Q&A tooling, which is new. The tooling is new. Q&A has been there a while. Explaining the increase or decrease, which is called insights, and we covered trends. So today we're going to cover the remainder of the AI topics. We're going to talk about key influencers. We're going to show you the decomposition tree, which is my favorite AI visualization. I'm going to show you something that's in preview right now, anomaly detection, and then we're going to also look at another preview one called smart narratives. So let's go ahead and begin with key influencers. Now, key influencers is a tool that kind of explains the why. So you can and the where, if you will. So it gives you an opportunity to look at some of the metrics that you're using and say, okay, maybe in the example we're going to look at that we could look at, why are my ratings that our customers are giving us low? And what does that customer look like? What's the persona for that customer? So we're going to tell it what we want to review and what influences it either being high or low. And that's why it's called key influencer. So let's go ahead and take a demo of this now. Now I'm going to first give it a shot. Let me minimize that. Using the Power BI report that we used last month, where we created these cool Q&A visuals. If I just back over one, you can see I have some questions there. We also looked at insights that I just talked about that, and then trend lines. We've got average lines, all kinds of things. So I'm going to try to do it in here. I hope I have enough data in my data set. I'm in Fabricam, or the World Online, or the lesson database for GP. If I do not have enough data set, then I'm going to switch over to one where I know I have enough. So we'll give it a shot both ways. But first we'll start with the GP. So what I'm going to do to add this, I could come right over here, and the key influencer one is, oh, there it is, right up here in, let me zoom in, try to remember which one is my zoom, there we go. So right up here next to, I should have done, sorry, yeah, there we go, right there. So this visualization right here, it's right next to the Python visualization. That's the key influencer. Or you could come up to insert, and then there is this AI visuals up here at the top, where we're going to be talking about all three of these today. These are the well, we've talked about Q&A already. We're going to talk about these two plus two other ones today. So I'm going to just add it from here because it's a little bit easier to add. And I would suggest taking it a whole page for the key influencer. Now, once we do this, we're ready to start populating. And just like all Power BI visualizations, there is this pane here in the middle called, I'm going to collapse filters, called visualizations. And this is where we either select a visualization or we can populate the visualization. Now in here, we have two different fields that we need to populate. We have analyze and we have explain by. We don't need to worry about expand by right now. So we're going to tell it what we want to analyze and what are all the potential fields that we want it to explain by. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to come in and let's see. First of all, I need to have something that I want to analyze. So I'm going to, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Maybe I should show you in the other one. It might be easier for at least the key influencers, because as I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I'm not sure. So here is a key influencer one. So we're going to pretend we're a technology company and we have different kinds of customers that have different kinds of service plans. And our customers can range in various sizes. The person who fills out the evaluation or the rating of us could have different roles. And you could see the number of roles they have in each one. So here, what I'm going to do, just like I did before, I'm going to add in that key influencer. And I'm going to stretch it across. Now over here, I just created 3 different visuals. 2 are slicers, one's for company size, one's for a role in the organization, and the other one's just a little table where I could see the role, the rating, and the count of the rating. So once I click back on my key influencer, I still have the analyze and explain by. So I'm going to open up the customer table. And what I want to explain is my ratings. And so we might go back and give GP a try after we do this, but I want to explain my rating, whether it's high or low. And so now I need to put in here all the potential things I might want to explain this by. So I might want to explain it by the company size. So if it's a bigger company, am I going to have higher ratings or lower ratings? And then I'm going to open up the customer table and I'm going to add in the theme. The theme would be for this particular company, maybe what kind of service that we have with them. So I'll have the theme listed there. I'm going to open up, I'm going to leave device off. Let me go to geography. I'm going to get the country and region and populate that. And then I'm going to go to the role and I'm going to get the role of the organization of the person who's populating it. I'll go to subscriptions and get their type of subscription they have. And I'm going to go to support tickets. And I'm actually going to get the number. So I'm going to get the support ticket ID and I'm going to tell it to count them. Okay, so these are all the things that I could potentially explain the rating by. Company size, how big is the company? The theme of the support ticket, what are they writing about? Security theme, so forth. Or what are they giving us the rating on? The country and the region, the role of the organization of the person filling out the evaluation, the type of subscription they have with us, and the number of support tickets that are open at the time. And so up here in the top left, I have a question. Do I want to find out what influences ratings to be high, or do I want to find out what influences the rating to be low? If I want to try to solve a problem, I'm going to click on low. I'm interested in the low rating. So what can I do to avoid low ratings? Now, after I've populated all of those, one of the things you're going to see here on the left is it tells me when a support ticket count, that's the count, goes up 2.3 or 2.53 or higher, the rating is 4 times more likely than the average to be low. So, and of course, that was a little bit common sense. If someone has more than 2 tickets open with us, they're probably not going to be super happy. But that's interesting to know how much lower it is. Now that's 4.08 times above the average. And I can see the average right here, this red line, and the average is 3.63. I could also see if I select this one, Now I'm looking at role and org as consumer. So over here, I could see in this particular table over here that there's administrator, consumer, and publisher. So if the role is a consumer, they're 2.57 times more likely to give us a low rating over the average. So here's the average, and I could see the consumer ratings, but notice also administrator ratings tend to give us low ratings. So it looks like publisher is our sweet spot. We do better with the publisher role, the person in the publisher role over the consumer or the administrator. And this continues to go to give me information as far as what is likely to create low influencers. Now, if I come in, I might want to say, I'm focused on my customer, my larger customers. So if they have more than 50,000 users, so I'm going to click on that and it reruns the analysis. So now the number of support ticket percentage goes down to 2.49, but that's still pretty high. But now I can see the theme has moved up. It's 2.73 times more likely if they're filling out an evaluation on security than anything else. So this is me looking at security for companies that have over 50,000. And again, I can see the average right there. So if I go back to everybody, and now I'm looking at the theme, that theme is security. I'm going to click on this theme. Usability seems to be a bigger theme. So if the theme is usability, then that means that they are 2.55 times more likely. So among everybody, usability seems to be the biggest issues. My big customers, it's security. And if I look at my small customers, usability is definitely still the highest. So this is an interesting way to do some evaluation on your data without having to do a lot of digging. It takes everything that we had in the explain by area, and it says, okay, these are the biggest things that cause it to be high or low. Now I can even come up here and click on top segments, and now I'm going to get this level of rating right here. So I could say, okay, for this segment, so it's giving me a persona, the persona being the country and region is France, the organ, the role of in the organization is not publisher, and the number of tickets is greater than 4 but less than 6. So it's saying 60.9% of the rating is low, and this is 49% points higher than the average. So this is a persona I need to target. This is who I need to be looking at. And I could continue to work my way down to try to figure out where the ratings are low. And some things will change, like when I get down to 19.5%, this is the publisher instead of not the publisher, and the support ticket's greater than 4. Now, likewise, I could change this to look at high and see who my sweet spots are here as well. So here is if it is a publisher and they have less than or 1 support ticket outstanding. So this is where I'm getting my absolute best rating. So looking at this, I definitely know we need to do more to reduce our support tickets. We should probably focus on usability, and we should probably focus on security. So let's give this a shot looking at some GP data. I'm going to grab the extended price and put that in the analyze. And then in the explain by, let me put in item number, item class. Not a lot to work with here. We'll get the year as well. I'm going to go to the customer. Right now it's telling me it couldn't find any identifiers. So I'm going to put in the state, and I'm going to put in the city, and I'll put in the customer class. Yeah, we still don't have enough here to give us anything to create an influence. So you really have to make sure, I'm just going to put some things that don't make sense, like posting status and SOP type. And we still don't have enough to explain that. So you need to make sure you have a lot of different variants. You might want to include salesperson. You might want to break down the date into more than just the year, like I did. Maybe if I took out the year and put in the whole document date, maybe we'd get a little more. Nope. You might also want to put in some key information about your products. and your salespeople and the customer information. So that's not quite enough for the key influencers there. All right. So as we go through, again, I just have an explanation here on if you want to get the deck, I'll show you how to get that. But it gives you an explanation of what each of these boxes are. A couple of things to note: if you have your Power BI report doing a direct query on your data as opposed to an import, and I've been showing you how to do imports, so you should always try to do imports if you can. The key influencers are not available, and there's a couple other things where it's not available as well. But if you do an import, a normal Power BI report, you should be just fine. Now I'm going to talk about my favorite visualization, that is AI, and this is the decomposition tree. And this is basically often called the root cause analysis. So it's very similar to the key influencer, but it just is giving us a chance to use a little bit of AI to tell me, okay, what is the root cause of this particular item? So let's go ahead and take a look at the decomp tree. And I think I could do this with GP data. So let's give it a shot. I'll click on insert. I'm going to go to the decomp tree. And again, I like to spread it out in its entirety. Now, just like we had on the key influencers, we only have, and I should have done it without my cursor in the way. There we go. We only have two fields here that we need to popularize: the analyze and the explain by. So it works very similar to the key influencer. So let's start populating. So I'm going to analyze my extended price, and notice how it automatically creates this tree. This is going to look a lot like a it's going to look like an org chart that's sideways. And one of the things that we typically might want to do is take off the tooltip, because the tooltip is exactly what you see right there, and it'll keep it out of the way. So I'm going to go into format, and I'm just simply going to turn off the tooltip. I just slid that little bar from on to off. I'll go back to fields, and now I can keep on trucking. So that's my explain by. That's my analyze, rather. My explain by, I'm going to come in once again, and I'm going to say customer class. I'm going to grab the salesperson ID. I'm going to grab maybe the state, the type of customer they are. I'm going to grab the item class code. I'll grab the year, and I'm going to grab the item number. So what's going to happen here is, you notice now I have this little plus over here. And in this plus, actually, let me zoom in like this. There we go. So when I click on this plus, I have an option to choose from one of these items. So I'm going to say, go ahead and break it down by customer class. And now I could see the extended price, or my revenue, by each of my customer classes. And if I select one, here's the biggest one, I could click on the plus here, and I can now say, all right, now show me by salesperson ID. And they only have one salesperson, so now I could say, show me by year. And they have multiple years out here, so I'm going to look at the biggest year, which is 2027, and I could say, show me by item class code. And so that's pretty cool being able to do that. And you'll notice that if I come back to like customer class, if I always want them to start with customer class, I could click on it to lock them down. So they'll have to start at this level, customer class. Now, what I'm going to do is remove these, because that wasn't AI. That was just me saying, hey, show it to me by this. I'm going to use AI this time. And again, like I think I told you this last month, anytime you see the light bulb, that means AI is involved. I can explain this by high values or low values. So if I choose high values, it's going to take all these explain by, and it's going to give me where the explain by has the biggest reason, or it's the biggest root cause of a high extended price. So if I click on high, it's telling me, okay, item class code seems to be the biggest variance, and retail is it. So if I come in and click again, and I choose high value, Now it's going to show me the type. And once again, it's retail. And you notice instead of seeing the lock, I see the light bulb to indicate to me that that is using AI. And I'm going to choose retail again, and I'll choose high value. Then the year seems to be the next biggest biggest cause. And then I could keep working my way down. There's item number. And let me grab one more. I'm going to grab customer class. Now, if I came down here and said, what was 2024? You're going to notice that customer class this change. So if I come back to 2027, the next root cause was item number and then customer class. But for 2024, it's customer class and salesperson. And utilizing these, it's because I'm using that intelligence all the way through. So if I come down and say, oh, show me the AT&T cords, then I have potentially different options all the way around that I could keep choosing for. And I can make a call all the way through. Now, this again is called, it's a root cause analysis, and it's called the decomp tree. And the decomp tree is super powerful. It's one of my favorite things, bar none. And you could do the same thing for low. So if I came in and clicked on this and said, show me the low value, what makes the biggest variance? Well, there doesn't seem to be a lot, right? So it's like selecting this particular one, which is a big old negative. Let me look at that one. And I'm going to look at the low value here. And I could see it goes to customer class. Now, you don't have to go low, 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 and high, high, high. I'm going to start with the lowest value, and I have this. Now I might say, okay, show me the highest value of that. Maybe I'm trying to figure out where that is. So I'm going to grab, Illinois seems to be the highest one. Automatically right now, I can tell what's going on with it. It looks like I gave a refund a return in Missouri and nothing. Illinois maybe had something that would net it out blank. So I could keep working my way through, and now I'm down to nothing. But this is a very, very cool feature. All right. And again, you just like I did the key influencer one, you could put some other slicers on this screen so that you are eliminating a few things. So for example, if I put in a slicer and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this by year. And I put in, I clicked on key influencer, not slicer. There's slicer, and I'm going to put in year. And so let me change this to, come on, I want to see a list, not a slicer year like that. Let me change that. I won't use year. Let me use item class. Okay. And so I'll take item class out of my decomp tree. And then, so now if I come in and I do the high again, I'm just going to go a couple levels deep. So it went type, it went year, and then it went to item number. So now if I say, all right, I want to see by modems. Now it changed to year, class, and customer ID. Components still the same, year, class, and customer ID. And here is customer class, salesperson, and state. So you could see, even with a slicer on the report, you could do some really cool things. So again, requires two kinds of input, the analyze and the explain by. And then you could have your AI splits. You can turn off the enable AI splits in the formatting option. So if you want to force people to look at something in a particular way, you could turn off that ability. Although I wouldn't see why you would want to do that, but you can do it if you want to. And then you could also do it for the absolute or the relative mode. And the relative mode, it's looking out for basically outliers or things that stand out, as opposed to everything, where absolute looks at the total values, and it's the default mode. On the composition tree, in the slide deck, I do show you how you could turn that on and off. And Couple limitations here. The tree can only have up to 50 levels, but I can't imagine what a Power BI report would look like for 50 levels. And it could only have data points of up to 5,000. So you could basically only have 5,000 explained by. So not sure why you'd want to do that. And okay, so let's keep on going. I'm going to skip through some of those other limitations. Let's see. Let's talk about anomaly detection. Now, you might recall last month, if you were on, we looked at trends. And when we looked at trends, or excuse me, forecasts. And when we looked at forecasts, it said, all right, I predict this is going to be the high level for your system or for your forecast. And this is the low level. And then it looked for, the line to be right, the forecast to be right in the middle of that low and the high. Well, this is going to basically do the same thing. You have to have a line chart, just like trends and forecasts, and it has to be over a period, a date period, so that you can run this. That makes a little bit of sense. But it's going to find the high and the low, and then it's going to tell you if anything falls outside that high and low value that it predicts, that it would have predicted for it to be in. And this is a preview, so you do have to turn it on. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So to turn it on, first of all, you need to go to File, Options and Settings, and then you're going to want to go to Options. And you could do it globally here. See the preview settings. We want to make sure we have, doesn't even look like I have mine turned on. I'll have to close out and open it back up. But you have to turn on anomaly detection. I'm also going to jump ahead and turn on smart narrative as well. So once I have that done, I'm going to click OK. Now these are previews. So let me close this out. And when you have a preview, let me reopen it back up. Here we go. When you have a preview, things may change. They're usually okay, but I would recommend going ahead and start using them. Just be aware that until it becomes generally available, things may change. Okay, so let's go to anomaly detection and let's start populating our anomaly detection. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my sales. I'm going to take my extended price. Well, first I need a line chart, and I'm going to just make this big all the way across. And so what I'm going to do is in my values, I'm going to take that extended price and populate that in my values. Now I'm going to add the document date into the axis. So I'm now looking at a line chart over a period of time. And this is also, by the way, great to do with cash. Okay, so now what I'm going to do over on the right, zoom in over here, we have, you may recall this little analyze tool that this is how we added in, I'm going to click on it. This is how we added in trend lines and forecast last month. Well, there's also now, because I added it into the preview, there is this find anomalies, and I'm going to tell it to add this anomaly. And now I can see, all right, here's the sensitivity level. Now, one of the things I want to point out is the higher the sensitivity level that you have, the fewer options you're going to have. And so we'll start at 70%, the default, and let me zoom back out. So what you could see here are these gray dots that appear. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you could read this. On the tooltip, you could see the extended price is 329,000. The expected value for this date was only 77,000. And then it shows me the expected minimum value and the expected maximum value. Now, this was a high sensitivity rate. But now I could see this is an outlier to the trend. So when I'm looking at my data, I could see where my outliers go. I'm going to change the sensitivity to 90% and apply it. Oops, sorry. And now I have more anomalies. I think I might have told you backwards. the higher the sensitivity, the more anomalies you're going to have, because it tries to find the rate to be a lot smaller. So this time, if I zoom in and look, you can see my expected value falls between 77,000 and 78,000. So it really tries to hone in on what that expected value should be, what the minimum value and the maximum value are. So naturally, this falls outside that range. So if I want to get fewer anomalies, I could just lower the sensitivity rate, and then it's going to make that high and low a much bigger number so that I could find what the expected values are. And if you look, you can see the gray bar. This is actually showing me my expected value, expected high and low. I'm going to change that to 25%. It should get bigger. So now anything that doesn't fall within this expected range will come up with an anomaly, so I could find what the heck is going on. So that's a little bit about anomaly detection. It's a pretty cool thing. I was talking with someone who worked at a bus, like the bus system for a fairly large city in the United States. And he played with this anomaly detection right away. And they discovered a problem that they had on one day of the week. And then they were able to figure out the cause behind it. And it ended up saving them money. So that was a pretty cool thing. And that was all done in a matter of like 2 days after it came out. So that was pretty cool. The screenshot shows you how to turn those on. And it shows you, again, some of the limitations here. So you do have to have at least 12 data points to use anomaly detection. But if you're doing it by day, that's probably a better way to do it so that you can try to figure out what the heck is going on. And let's see. That takes us on to smart narratives. Smart narratives is another thing that's in preview. And the smart narratives actually tries to come up with text to explain what's going on with your data. So let's take a look at that now. All right, so I'm going to come into smart narratives, and I'm going to just, let me put out a little bit of data here. I'm going to put in, maybe I'll put a year for access, and the extended price, I'll put in the values. All right, so I have this little chart going on right here, and maybe I don't know a whole lot about what is happening within here. So I'm going to add in smart narratives, and there is a new icon right here, smart narratives. I think they added it. Yeah, it's also up here. Now that I put it in preview, this other one's up here. And when I click on it, it automatically adds in text that help me explain the chart that I'm seeing. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and here we go. So it is telling me at this dollar value, $661,000, 2027 had the highest extended price and was 1,759% higher than 2024, which had the lowest extended price. So that's a pretty big range. And then 2027 accounted for 58.25% of the extended price. And it goes on to further explain some of what's going on. Now I'm going to click on this ellipsis up here. So we'll dig in a little bit more, or edit it a little bit more. So when I click on the report, I don't have to click on the ellipsis. I get this option here where I could add in more things. So I'm going to add a value. So I'll click on the add value. And then here is Q&A again, where I could ask a question about my data. I could say, show the value for modems is, and then I'm going to come in here and find, actually I shouldn't have used value. I should have said extended price. Okay, extended, you got to spell it right. I don't know. Extended price for modems is, and then I could format this as currency with 2 decimal places and the name of my, I'll leave a value right there. And oh, I should have typed more text. is the value of modems. So let's see if when I click on this, nope. There we go. When I look at 2027, I could literally see the value of my modems right there. So you could add text to it if you want to. That's funny that I had, because in 2028, I basically returned all my modems. So you can put in different values here for things that you're seeing. And if you want to change one of those, you could just double click on it and I could change this to for retail. And as I start typing, I get a choice either by type, which is my user defined field 1, or by item class. I'm going to grab item class and I'm going to click on save, and I'm going to change this text to for all retail item class. I don't know, you normally type it to make more sense. But now as I click on each of the month or each of the years, as it changes, it's going to tell me what the change is for that. So I get this interactive report that's text, and you could have some control in the narrative that it displays. I think that's a really cool thing to do. One of the things that I like to do is this goes beyond the scope of today, but this is kind of fun to do. Let me come in. I'm going to add in a, first of all, I'm going to take this visual. I'm going to shrink it up really kind of small, move it right up in here. I'm going to take this visual and stretch it out. And now what I'm going to do is take this visual and I'm going to go ahead, and I'm not worried about covering it up. I'm going to just do it like that. Okay, and then I'm going to come in and do, whoops, not home, insert actually I'm going to insert a button. I'm going to insert an information button right here. And there you go. And when somebody clicks on this button, I'm going to turn the background off, and let's put some text on this button. And the text will be more information. Okay, and stretch that out. There you go. That's cool. So that looks good. What I'm going to do also is come up to view, and I'm going to turn on the selection pane, and I'm going to turn on the bookmark pane. And what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to actually copy and paste that. And on this one, I'm going to change the button text to, instead of more information, turn off information. Okay, so I have more information and turn off information. And what I'm going to do is come into the selection, and here's my turn off information. I'm going to hide that by clicking on that little sign. And now I'm going to take this smart narrative and turn that off. And then I'm going to quickly take a bookmark of what it looks like of this. And then I'm going to put in, this is the this is the report. And then this time I'm going to come in, and you're probably wondering, what the heck is Belinda doing? I'm going to turn that other one back off, turn the other information off. And I'm going to also bring the text box back. And once I do this, I'm going to add another bookmark, and I'm going to rename this to more information. Okay, now that I have that done, I'm going to close up the bookmark and close up the selection. And on this one, turn off information, I'm going to come back in on the visualization pane. Since that is an icon, there is an action option here. I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to tell it to go to the bookmark and go to, go back to the report. So when you publish this, you would just click on it. But right here, I'll do a control and click. And now it takes me back to that report. And then over here, I'm going to turn this action on and set it to a bookmark and turn it on for more information. So if I hold the control key down and click here, I can see my smart narrative. And if I click here, it turns it off. And that's a really cool way that you could take a report and make it much more user-friendly. I know, right? Wow. Let's do a quick save. All right, Neato Torpedo. Again, these are some great ways of being able to do narratives that are part of the system. Love doing that. Again, you have to turn on that feature. There are still quite a few limitations on it. This is, of the things I've shown you, this is one of the newest ones. So that's pretty cool. I do want to also point out that there are some other AI things that you could do inside of Power BI. And for some of these to happen, you would need to have access to a subscription to cognitive services, for example, or you'd need to be on premium, one or the other. And cognitive services is part of Azure. But what you could do then is you could actually create a sentiment analysis for the data. So if you have like a report of a whole bunch of comment cards, you could let the AI read through all the data and decide, is this a positive comment or a negative comment or a neutral comment? And it'll even give it a numerical rating, so you could look at that. So you could do some sentiment analysis. You could also do some key phrase extraction. So if you're looking at all your comment cards, what are the phrases people use a lot? Maybe those are things that you either need to work on, or maybe they should be the keywords you use when you're doing your marketing. You could do some language detection and try to do some translating of it. And then you could even do some image tagging. And those are some additional things that you could do. They don't come directly with Power BI and Professional, which is what most of these are. That's the these are the $10 a month per user version. You'd have to have that extra piece, but it is certainly something that is available to you. And so that kind of wrapped up early. I will be happy to take any questions that anybody has, or if you want to see something again, write it in the chat, come off mute and let me know. Meanwhile, this is how you could get my slide deck, and I'll even send the template of the final piece that I pulled out for you. You would need to make sure you have the latest version of Power BI Desktop in order to use it. But anything in particular? No questions, Haley? I'm going to open up the chat on my screen. Oh, it doesn't. I'm not sure we have chat. So, okay. Cool. Well, since you guys aren't asking questions, I'm not going to let the time go and waste it. I'm going to take advantage of using the decomp tree again. And in this particular scenario, I have a sales visual, I have a sales by segment, and a sales by year. So I'm going to come back up to insert again and add the decomp tree one more time, because this one has so much power to me. And I'm going to come into my sales. And what I want to show you on this one is I have a measure, a DAX measure. And if you're not familiar with DAX, it is data analysis expression that sits on Power BI. So you could create formulas like you do in Excel and let it read the formula. So here's one where I'm getting the growth percent of year-over-year sales. So I'm going to be evaluating the growth percent, not the actual dollar. And so now as I start explaining some of this, I'm going to come in and under date, I'm going to grab, let me grab the year. Let me grab the month too. Maybe one month has more bearing over another. And another thing that's interesting would be to grab the day of the week on some of your things. Maybe some things are happening more frequently than others. I'm going to grab the manufacturer under product. I'm going to grab the, I've got a product hierarchy here of category, segment, and product. And you could do this just by simply creating, let me delete this hierarchy and I'll show you how. So delete that hierarchy. And I'm going to take the category and I'm going to drag it on top of the word product. And now I have a product hierarchy. And so that shows me the, let me open it back up. the product and the category. Let me also get segment and move in there. And now I have segment as well. So I could take a whole hierarchy and put them in, and all three of those will act independently. And then let me check out my sales. Is there something I want to add in here? Let me grab product ID. So again, I could come in and say, where are my highest growth year over year? And it seems to be with this product. And if you look, that makes sense because it's 216,000% increase year over year. And now I could come in and do another one. Now, maybe I want to just select 1 year. So if I select this year, that might change. Well, definitely changed. Let's just close that out and try that again. So I'm going to click on the high value. So for that year, there was only a 7.2% growth, and it doesn't seem to be doing as much when I'm looking at just 1 year. So I'm going to click on that again. So now I can see USA, and I'm going to do high value again. Van Arstel is the manufacturer, and I'll click on the high value again, and I could see which category it's in. And my point is, the cool thing about this, let's click on convenience and see what we get. It looks like that's still the high one, but I'm going to click here and see what changes, if anything. And not a whole lot changed. But what's really cool about this is it gives us a great way to evaluate our data without having to come up with how we want to evaluate it ourselves. Sometimes something weird can cause you to bump over the edge. And one of the example of that is, I'll never forget one customer. This goes way back to like 1995, and I was building a report in Crystal Report Writer. And I asked the owner of the company, who are your top 5 customers? And he gave me 4 of the top 5. And the 5th one happened to be the 6th customer. What he found out was somebody that they sold seconds to, or mistakes, they were a manufacturer, that person, that company had moved up into the top 5 position. And that told him 2 things. 1, they had a lot of mistakes that was costing him money. And 2, there was a market for some kind of discounted product. So he made a less expensive version of his product. He cleaned up the mistakes. So they ended up making more money on their full products, and they ended up making more money in this second area. And so sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So you might as well let the system tell you. And let the system guide you. So I'm going to end it there unless there are any more questions. And I don't see any. Okay. I could go on and show you a whole lot more, but I only have 12 minutes and I don't want to overdo my welcome. Whoop, didn't mean to click on that one. I meant to click over here. And we'll pull this back up. But this is a pretty cool trick. So hopefully maybe you didn't know about that, where you could make things appear and disappear and click on with icons. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Once again, I'd like to thank Marlena and Haley and the rest of the people at DuxPro for giving me this platform to share this information with you. And I hope I'll see you next month when we look at GL data and we dive into it so we can create some operational reports with it. Thanks so much.